Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of the Everyday Podcast titled Being a CEO at 20 and a COO at 19. I am your host, Matt Esposito, and I'm going to let our wonderful co-host introduce himself.
I am your co-host, Andrew Sadikov, and on today's episode, we're going to discuss what it's like to be a CEO and COO at the following ages, but the thing is, we're no longer those ages. So we're going to be talking about our experience from about 2 years ago when we were, CEO at 20 and COO at 19, even though we no longer are.
And make sure everyone to check out the last episode, episode 1. We've been getting some good feedback on it. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and website and check that out. Just to give you guys some general podcast updates before we dive in, our website is almost complete. By the time this episode comes out, it should be. So feel free to check that out at everydaypodcast.biz. That's B-I-Z at the end. The other domain was $2,000, so don't even think about it. Our email is now active, so you can interact with us via email if you have any questions or want to come on as a guest or anything like that. Feel free to shoot us an email. And our social media accounts are off and running, so be sure to follow us on Facebook at Everyday Podcast FB and Instagram at Everyday Podcast IG. All right, so moving on to the three main topics that we're going to talk about today. One, we're going to dive into the full story of the Everyday brand. I know in episode 1 we talked about it a little bit, but we really want to dive in because it's obviously really good background information for the entire podcast and any episode moving forward. So we're going to be sure to cover that. The second thing we're going to talk about is the reality of entrepreneurship and being your own boss. And the third thing is going to be our position breakdown. So we're kind of going to get into the technical side of things and see what a day in the life for me and Andrew is. So we're really excited for this episode. This, entrepreneurship is our biggest passion. And we have so much to talk about, and I wanted to state this before we even go on. We're not just going to do one episode on this topic. Every episode is going to incorporate some form of, discussing entrepreneurship. But we're really excited for this episode, and we think we have a lot of stories to tell, a lot of advice to give.
Right.
This is what we want the podcast to stem from. And also something to keep in mind before we get into this is that we think this information also applies to the majority of entrepreneurs. Not only people that have experienced what we have, but people that are looking to get into entrepreneurship. What we talk about doesn't really just apply to people within our industry. We want you to keep in mind that, we think this applies to the general population, which is why we're telling the stories and giving advice in the first place, because we can feel we can help out others. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Right, yeah, exactly. And nevertheless, we hope it's entertaining regardless. So even if this is something that maybe you're not exactly an entrepreneur, but you're still interested in this kind of lifestyle. There's a lot of young kids out there who maybe aren't in a position where they can open a company yet, but they want to know as much as they can for once they get to that age. This is an awesome resource for them too.
And we're in a good mood. It's been a good week. We've done some amazing projects. We got some new prospective clients, great people that we're really hoping to work with. And let's get this started.
Right.
So let's dive into the full story of the Everyday brand. So let's start with ED. So Everyday Expo was the first company in the Everyday brand. So it started as a YouTube channel. Me and my brother, we started doing car reviews. I think it was my junior or senior year of high school, a couple years back. And, we would just review cars like our family, the cars that our family owns, our friends.
My Civic at some point got reviewed. Yeah,
Civic at some point. Basically anything we could pick up and try and get some cool content. And a couple months down the road, I think it was like 8 months later, we started getting a little bit of traction, had a couple thousand views. We got in touch with a local dealership, Circle BMW, over in the road in Eatontown. Great team. We love them. They're our first client. We wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for them anyways. Right. But we got in touch with Circle BMW, local dealership, and we ended up coming to this agreement where we'd come in and we would have access to their inventory at the BMW dealership, and we could use them for our car reviews in exchange for, putting up like an advertisement for them. So it was like a win-win situation. Here I am at 17, 18 years old, and now I have the opportunity to drive around a new M4 and put it on my YouTube channel, and it was a win-win situation. And it ended up a couple months after we got into that. And keep in mind that I was personally still in college. I was actually a neuroscience major at the University of Delaware. I thought I was going to be a doctor for pretty much all of my life. I wanted to be a dermatologist, to be more specific. So while we were running this YouTube channel, I was coming back and forth from school on the weekends and editing it on iMovie, all that good stuff. So after a while, Circle BMW came in and talked to us, and they said, can you guys do these videos for us? But we want to use some video in our advertising efforts. And I was like, well, all right, sure. Here we are with our phones. Here we are with our iPhone.
Yeah, literally.
8s or something like that filming. And
You
this
had
is
one of those
yeah.
DJI little gimbal things.
Yeah.
I remember that thing. Yeah.
And this was even before Andrew was involved.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't even. Company didn't exist. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't involved. I knew of the channel because everybody in school would talk about it.
Yeah.
The Everyday Expo channel. Got some pretty good feedback from the kids. But.
And I'm not really sure how I got the name, by the way. It just came to me one day, and we kind of stuck with it. Obviously, my last name is Esposito, so Espo for short. And we transferred that over to the company when we formed the LLC. But going back to what I was talking about with Circle BMW, they approached us after doing these car reviews for a couple months, and they asked us if we could assist them in their advertising efforts, doing some video. And obviously, that was a paid job, and we were like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it out. And soon enough, they referred us to basically their brother or sister dealership, whatever you want to refer to, Circle Auto Group over in Shrewsbury. Another great group of people. We love them. And they asked us the same thing. They said, hey, are you guys able to create a TV spot for them? And that's when we were like, well, what the heck, a TV spot? There we are with our iPhones, like I said before. We didn't have any professional equipment. We had, nothing like that. And I left that meeting, and I was in the car driving home, and I was thinking to myself, well, if these two businesses need these video services, maybe other dealerships also need these services, or even a bigger picture, maybe other businesses in other industries could utilize these services. And a month later, I believe I was a freshman. Yeah, I was a freshman in college at this time. A month later, I decided to form the LLC for Everyday Expo. As I said, that was the first company in the Everyday brand. And from there, we started out with a total of 4 guys. I think Andrew came on right away. That's where he came into play. I know you told the story last episode, but you said you saw my job post on Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat, literally part-time filmmakers. Quite honestly, it was a super simple thing.
So, Andrew might be chief operating officer at ED now, but he started out as a multimedia specialist, and then from there, he moved up to operations manager before being made COO. So, he started, as a filmer too.
Right.
So after that summer, I created the LLC, and we were strictly just a photo and video company. We also advertised that we could do some social media work, moreover just content creation in the photo and video wise. But the fall rolled around and the business started to grow. We started adding graphic designers and added graphic design as a service. We got our first gig for a furniture company. We were asked to do a TV commercial, which we filmed
Oh my God.
in my garage. My parents were nice enough to let us utilize the garage, and it was I don't know, how would you describe that? That was very interesting. We're sitting there in the hot garage. There's no air conditioning.
Honestly, yeah.
We had all 7 of the team members. I think by August we had 6 or 7 team members working on the project. And it was our big debut. We were like, we need to use this and run with it, And the product was, and we still do the marketing for them.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of things have changed since then, but an amazing product, the Motor Divan. But
there's an iconic image of it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the garage, and it's shot from outside the house,
Yeah.
and you can see it's the middle of the night, right? So it's dark. You can barely see the trees. You can barely see, the cars in the background of the house, and you've just got the 2 lights on in the garage and the couch and the green screen behind it. It's hilarious shot. And then the rest of the team is messing around, trying to fix the lighting, trying to fix the couch, the screen, the cameras, all of that stuff. So.
And for me, from a business perspective, I just we just got to get this done no matter what it took. So I think I lost hundreds of dollars in labor hours just to try and get some product out there. Which, to be honest with you, for back then with what we had, the commercial inside the playroom that we ended up transitioning inside to see what we could do. We utilized the game room inside my house and tried to make it into a college dorm. I think
They
That
came out
was-
well. Like
yeah.
I would show that commercial to somebody right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's a good example of
No.
our commercials, but I would definitely show it to somebody without necessarily being embarrassed by it.
So, anyways, from there, the business kind of grew, and I was still attending UDEL in the fall of that year. But I tried to transition into the business and entrepreneurship school because I knew medicine wasn't for me then. But I was actually rejected from the school of business and entrepreneurship, and that's when I kind of had enough of that. And when I left in December, I didn't. I planned on going back, but once I got back, I was, and I started working and things started to pick up even more. I just decided that I was going to put college to the side for now, and for now turn into forever. But anyways, and I don't regret my decision at all. The Everyday brand wouldn't be where it was today if I was still in college. So that's when I made the decision to go full time on running the company, and still at the time there was only EDE. And from there, when I got home that fall, that's when things started to get really serious, when we decided to transition into a full-service agency. So we started to add web developers and digital marketing strategists and SEO experts. And
Right.
the list goes on and on. So that, January, February, March, that's when we made the transition into a full-service marketing agency. And moving on from that, since then, obviously, we've added a lot of new staff members. We've taken on a lot of new projects, whole different ballgame now than it was then. And that was year and a half ago, 2 years?
Something like that. You're right.
So, and moving on to Everyday Studios, we're in the process of getting that off the ground. Obviously, the global pandemic put a little bit of a damper on our plans, but we're working very hard to get that company off the ground. Technically, we can provide services, and we do within that company now, but getting everything together is just taking a little bit longer than we expected. Do you have anything to add, Andrew, about the Everyday brand? I don't know, any background information that may be useful to the audience, that'll help them in the future, just in terms of anything to do with...
Yeah, not really. I guess at some point we're going to mention, not even so much here, but just, the mistakes we've made and then the lessons we've learned. From there, I think a very big point for us was, and I talked to Matt about it today, was that before we used to disagree on a lot of things, and now we don't so much, pretty much at all. But I remember when we first got the office, and, Matt was excited to get the office. He wanted the team to be together in one space, creative minds thinking together, working together. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, we're working out of Matt's garage. We've got one camera, 2 lenses, we're borrowing people's, equipment if we need something, maybe somebody has a reflector that we could use, or maybe some of these guys, they've got a light, right? So at the time I was quite terrified to put that kind of overhead. But I remember it turned out phenomenally well, honestly. And everything, every step that we've kind of taken forth has definitely pushed us, towards success, towards the direction that we want to be in.
And now he wants a bigger office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, and like you said, we're going to kind of dive into the specifics of our journey in the entrepreneurship world, but we wanted to kind of take a couple minutes to discuss how this happened, in terms of forming the Everyday brand. Anything to add to that before we move on?
No, let's move on.
All right, cool. So the next topic is the reality of entrepreneurship and being your own boss. And before I even dive into this, because it's a very, I don't want to say touchy subject, but I get very, I don't know what the correct word for it. Maybe heated is when it comes to entrepreneurship and talking about my journey. I guess I take it on a personal level.
Let's say excited.
Yeah, excited. That's a good one. But, before I start, I want to say personally, I wouldn't change a thing about what I've done. And even that goes to show, I've made a ton of mistakes over the past couple of years in doing, but that's why we've gotten where we are. So I do want to state that I would not change a single thing the way things have gone, because the experience that I've gained is absolutely priceless. Everything could disappear tomorrow, and I'd probably be able to adjust myself into doing pretty much anything else, or apply my knowledge and experience to, I don't even know, anything pretty much.
Right, yeah, start another company.
and we run into college students all the time, or, we also deal with college graduates as they come on to EDE or, EDS. And it just goes to show, it just reiterates what I said about how much I've learned, because I feel like I know a lot more than some kids that are still in college, especially in the business world. I've learned so much, and it's absolutely priceless.
Right, yeah, there's no replacement for just going out and doing what you're doing. As much as college can teach you, if you have the opportunity to start a business, probably better off starting a business than go into a business school? I mean, it depends. If you're going to go to Harvard. But in many different situations, think, is this something that I could already be doing? What steps can I be taking on my own to get to these goals of mine,
And of course, there's always risk, but I don't know, that's what I live for. And he likes risk too. Andrew lives
Oh, absolutely, risk, yeah.
But I guess the next thing, how people view our journeys. So I don't know if you want to start with this, but basically what we mean by this is people have a certain view of entrepreneurship, and the reality of it is kind of not what's on the outside. Usually when people look at me and Andrew, and you can add to this too, or correct me if I'm wrong, they'll see, they know that we work very hard for what we have.
Yeah, they're being nice to us, right? They'll give us the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. But they see we drive these nice cars and we do these nice things and we meet these nice people. And I feel like people just think, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like...
Yeah, you're typical, businessman who makes his money off of, lying and cheating to others and stealing money from the American public, through vicious means.
And not even that, just like I feel like people don't realize what we do or how we go about it. They just see what's on the outside, and that's why we're here to kind of talk about what goes on the inside, to kind of give you guys some insight into the reality of entrepreneurship. So I guess to give our personal takes on entrepreneurship, I'm going to let Andrew start with his first. I know you have your notes on the second page too, but I'll let you start first on your personal take on entrepreneurship. And then, like he said, we're very passionate about this this topic.
So the biggest thing that for me, I grew up with a very tech background, right? So I'm going to school currently now for computer science. I was always, math, science, technology, all that kind of stuff, and I didn't understand that anything else besides STEM realistically was valuable, was important, was anything. And it isn't to say that I had a problem with anything that wasn't STEM. I just didn't see how it kind of played into society. For me, there was technology, people that make the technology, that maintain the technology, there are doctors, dentists, whatever, that keep people alive, and everything else, entertainment, food, yeah, all that stuff is important. All of that stuff exists for sure. And it just didn't play a big scope in my life. And at the time, my idea was I'm going to go to school. I'm going to, learn everything I can learn. I'm going to get fantastic grades. I'll get hired somewhere. I don't need social skills. I don't realistically need any sort of directions. I don't need to realistically have my own opinion, anything like that. That was my plan. Through kind of entrepreneurship, through meeting Matt, through working with clients, I realized that everything that I thought was super important is so in the background, second place to everything that we actually do, and before I used to think of kids, maybe somebody's not doing so well in school, and I'm thinking, oh man, this kid's wasting his life. Like, he's going out with his friends and they're messing around or doing whatever teenagers do in high school. They're not studying, what is he doing? He's wasting his time. Now I look at these kids and go, hey, this kid probably has more social skills by the end of high school than I will by the time I'm 30. This man has done everything that he can. He can talk to anybody, he can make conversations happen in elevators if he has to. All these skills, all those talents, they are monetizable. They are something that you can bring to the table, that you can offer to this world, in entrepreneurship and outside of it. So a really big thing for me was realizing, what is valuable, that memorizing numbers and math equations actually is not as valuable as understanding how to live, how to make decisions, solve problems, interpret what other people are saying for yourself. And the biggest thing for me was, at the time, thinking numbers, I thought I was kind of just a number. I'm a high school kid, decent GPA, decent SAT score, going to a decent school, or at least at the time I was hoping I'd be going to a decent school. I wasn't going to go to an Ivy or anything like that. I figured I wasn't important. In the grand scheme of things, I was just a normal kid. I was going to drive in decent cars, live in a decent house for the rest of my life, whatever. The biggest change was when I started working with Matt, and I realized that my time's valuable, that the things that I do, the content that I produce, the decisions that I make actually affect people's lives. They affect people's businesses. They affect people's markets. Where I set up a light in a specific video can be the difference between how quickly a car from Circle BMW sells, or how many people share a video with their friends, or what people think of a certain shot. And from there, it's been, you can't go back from that. It's so difficult for me now if I'm doing homework. I'm doing a computer science lab, and there's 100 other kids in my class who are doing the exact same lab, who are going to come up with the exact same solution, so that the professor can read through all those labs and delete them, throw them away. That's a very difficult step for me to make, because now I'm used to the stuff that I do actually mattering. And I think probably similar thing for Matt, once he realized kind of just how much control you have over things and how important you can be, how influential you can be over things. It's a completely different lifestyle, completely different mindset for things. Before I tried, kind of like, you want to get good grades, you want to do well, but, I can also, play video games all night if I want to and not think about it. Now, it's, give your best all the time, but not even because like, oh, you got to give your best, right? Like Gary Vee said, always give your best. So I'm going to do that. No, it's a matter of you want to. You wake up in the morning and you want to give your best, So that was a huge thing for me. What do you think?
I think that was pretty good. Yeah. I want
Right.
to make sure you covered everything in your notes.
Exactly. No, moving on. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing was, selling, right? When coming into this company, I actually told Matt that I will do anything. I'll fly drones, I'll edit videos, I'll position lights, take apart cameras, whatever. I'm not going to do any sort of sales. That was the one thing I remember. There was an application. There was a little, almost like a grid pattern of things that you could circle. I circled everything, and I specifically put a big red X through like sales, anything to do with clients, anything to do with sales. That wasn't my thing. I don't know. I don't want to persuade somebody to buy my video or anything like that. But eventually, I ended up having to do it. And I learned that it's not really selling. For some situations it definitely is, right? Like if a telemarketer calls you or you get the scam calls that you get, they got to sell you on whatever scam. Like that is sales for certain. There is nothing else backing that interaction besides, can I sell something, a service that doesn't exist? Can I trick somebody? But here, we're selling solutions to problems. I come to a business, my sales tactic is I sit down with the person, I say, okay, tell me about your marketing. And I listen to what they say, and in my head, I think, long and hard and carefully about everything that they're saying. I create this image of, their marketing efforts and see where can I apply my skills and the skills of my team to make this a better image, to make these efforts, better. And from there, I realized that for one thing, people appreciate that a lot more than, somebody trying to sell them a service.
Right.
And for another thing, I enjoy that. I enjoy sitting down and solving problems and stuff like that. So a lot of the entrepreneurship stuff that you see online, even like the Gary Vee videos and, Jason Capital and whoever else you might follow, they're going to spew out as much information as they can, as quickly as they can in a very sales kind of matter. But, sit down and really think about what you're doing. There are problems that you need to solve, right? And that's where you're getting your clients from. That's where you're building your relationships from. That's what makes you valuable as a business, as an individual, as a team member, all that stuff. And then finally, balancing school and work. That's not something that I really expected. People say, oh, side hustle, right? Oh my goodness. If this is a side hustle, then I don't know what a real hustle is, because I put so much more hours into EDE and effort into EDE than I do into, school or anything else. And it's not to say that I don't put effort into school. It's just a matter of, I don't know if you can start a business on the side. Like, you need to be very stable and you need to have a very good sense of exactly what you want to do. Otherwise, you just won't have enough time. It'll take you a lot longer to get to the state at which you want to get to. So thinking of it as 8-hour workday, and then I'll spend 2, 3, 4 hours on my side hustle. No, it's going to be a 12-hour workday for your side hustle. And then you're going to fit everything else that you need to fit in. Somehow you're going to make it happen. At the time when we first started, actually, Matt and I were putting in easily 12-hour days. 12-hour days, realistically, neither one of us was going to make anything off of that. If you count up all those hours within the first, 6 months, maybe year, and you multiply them out by the minimum wage, way more money in the minimum wage than there is in entrepreneurship, especially as a starting company. You're not making anything like that. But as things kind of progress, that also balances out. So now, I know Matt's putting in 12-hour days, but I'm not anymore. I don't have to. I can. I always have the opportunity to. There's always projects, but nothing is going to happen if I don't do that. So you kind of get that side of freedom. I've been able to kind of step into my position. Everything's kind of been solidified. I don't need to run around. I don't need to do anything, that crazy. So now I've got that freedom, and that's the biggest thing. The first thing that's going to come with entrepreneurship is definitely going to be freedom, not money. If you're interested in money, then probably, go to pharmacy school, become a doctor. That's probably better than, trying to build a business, especially if you don't like it, don't do that. What do you think, Matt?
Well, yeah, of course we'll get there one day on the financial side, but
right, of course.
We've already seen an improvement, and I don't just mean in that. I mean in terms of, like you said, the freedom that we have. By the way, if anyone thinks they're busy, that's a bunch of bullshit. He is getting a computer science degree and also runs a company with me. Like when I say without a problem, I mean like we don't have any issues in terms of like clients and workload and him not being able to complete what he does and his schoolwork. So
right,
if anyone
exactly.
thinks they're busy, that's a bunch of BS.
But when you love it, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's
right.
not work when you when you love what you do.
Exactly.
And the other side of it is, before I move on to my personal take on entrepreneurship, I've seen him change like tenfold. And I mean that in like extremely positive way. Just his social skills and what he likes to do. I mean, I come into the office some days, and like you said, we used to argue a lot, and I guess we were just going through some growing pains.
Yeah, we had very different ideas.
But also, the arguing I encourage, because that's why we got where we are today. You know what I'm saying? It's not a negative thing. And I also agree about the 12-hour work days. I feel like we're also willing to if we need to. I mean, we always are. We've done it a couple times the past month. And we'll probably end up doing that for EDS anyways when that starts to pick up.
Oh, yeah.
But, we've definitely seen an improvement in everything, But, and like I said, yeah, he's changed a lot in all positive ways.
I appreciate that.
I'm excited to see what happens over the next year or two. Think about how far we've come in the past, year, 2, 3. The next year, that's even going to be more improvement than what we did then. So, completely agree with everything he said. So, move on to my personal take. Like I said, entrepreneurship is my favorite topic to talk about, but I feel like society has tainted it a lot. And that's kind of the battle of perception versus reality. I feel like when it comes to entrepreneurship, the media always just likes, or not just the media, on an individual level, you only like to talk about all the good stuff. Like I said before, ooh, they drive these nice cars, ooh, they own a business, they're a CEO, they're a COO, whatever the case may be. But no one ever talks about what it takes to get there, or what it takes on a daily basis. The sacrifice, the rejection, the loneliness. Me personally, I was very isolated in the beginning, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but there's a lot of stuff that I had to do on my own, and I still have to do on my own that doesn't involve anyone else. That requires me, just me. It requires me to be isolated. So you have to be extremely self-disciplined and self-motivated as an individual on a daily basis, and even the sacrifice, and Andrew can speak to this too, on a weekly basis, even though we're not working 12-hour days, I've lost friends, all these relationships because of what I do. Even family, I've had family mention to me multiple, they know sometimes I can be distant because of work. I'll get yelled at for being distant because of work. It takes a lot of sacrifice. But, all you can hope in the end is that everyone's understanding, and, they do know at the end of the day that you're working towards something. There's a reason you're doing it. There's a reason we work 80 hours so we don't have to work 40. Some people may not understand it, but to me at the end of the day, as long as I do, then it doesn't matter. And like I said, I wouldn't trade what I do for anything right now. When I get up in the morning, I'm so excited to do whatever it may be, even the tedious tasks. Like, I just find some joy to it for some reason, because when I get up in the morning, it's not just for me. In fact, I'm last on the totem pole for everything, which I don't care anyways. But I get up for my team. I tell them all the time. I say, I'm not here for me. I'm here for Andrew. I'm here for Cortez. I'm here for Joe. I'm here for everyone. That's what drives my passion for entrepreneurship is affecting others' lives, not just my clients, but I think it dials down to my team at the end of the day is changing their lives and helping them progress in their fields. That's what I mainly care about, But like I said, society's view on entrepreneurship, I feel, is a little bit tainted, and that's kind of why we created the podcast too, to really give the insight and see if we can turn things around a little bit. Even if we change one person's perspective or give advice to one person that ends up taking it, me and Andrew will probably be happy at the end of the day.
Right, exactly.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, other than coming from me when I first met you. Right. And kind of just the stuff that you've been able to achieve. I grew up in a Russian household. Both my parents are Russian. I was born here, but I grew up in Russia. Right. So English is actually my second language. And the stereotype is always like lazy Americans. That stereotype exists in Europe. That stereotype exists in Asia. Lazy Americans. Right. And, when I first met Matt, not to say that I thought of him as a lazy American, but I did not expect the amount of discipline that came out of this kid. I mean, it was insane. Even now to this day, like if he needs to stay up all night to do something, he'll do it. And then he'll come into the office the next day like nothing ever happened. He'll be talking to Joe. He'll be talking to the team. He's not going to have bags under his eyes. I don't know how. He's going to take care of whatever he needs to take care of on his end and be there for everybody else and consistently. This stability is not short-term stability. Everybody likes to romanticize that, right? Oh, handle one situation correctly, do this right. But it really is a marathon. I don't know if you've mentioned that before, but you like to say that a lot, that it is a marathon. It's a lot of stuff that needs to get done all the time, and it has to happen consistently. So I'm certainly very impressed with you in the best
Thank
ways.
you. Yeah. And that also goes for the team, too. We see that in our team. And obviously, I never expect anyone on the team to have to output what I do. I actually do it so they don't have to most of the time. But I don't expect that from anyone, on my team. I don't have, bad expectations or anything like that. But and I completely agree with everything you said about entrepreneurship, everything like that. I think that was a good take on it. And yeah, we wouldn't trade it for anything, honestly. And it's continuing that trend. It's never changed. Even when we used to argue a lot, we still loved what we did.
Right, exactly.
And even when I was, I guess a little good story time is when I was still at Delaware and you were still at Rowan, I used to pick him up on the way home that one fall semester that I was still in college every single weekend. And so we'd be talking for like 2 hours about this one website gig we got, and that was the only gig we had going on or something like that. So yeah, we've had some good times, and obviously like I said, society kind of has given a tainted look into entrepreneurship, but there's still a lot of good to it. Don't think with what we're telling you that we don't want to scare you away from it, or scare you away from what you're currently doing or what you want to do, but just keep in mind that there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's it. That's well said.
The next thing I have down was, I guess, a question for you. So I was doing some research today. I was just looking up entrepreneurship facts, anything else I could include to help educate the audience tonight. And one of the things I saw was that younger entrepreneurs, if they're an entrepreneur, they tend to have fewer friends. And I was thinking about it because I don't feel that way. I just thought it was a weird fact to bring up. Like, I know we work very hard, but I think we maintain our social life pretty good and balance it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder, well, for one thing, young entrepreneurs shouldn't have the time to fill out research questions like this. But in all honesty, I don't know if I necessarily, I'm not going to say I disagree, right? Because I can only talk about my specific experiences. If that's how the general consensus is, then perhaps that's true. But personally, I don't feel like I've had to give up any friends for this. And you also got to understand the difference, right? So, Matt and I are friends, obviously, but there's a much deeper level of friendship between him and I, and, me going to a party and hanging out with some kids, from whoever's local to that area, right? So there's decisions that can be made. I can be working on a website or on a gig with Matt, talking about something for the company, or I can go to, a party, or if I'm old enough, a bar or a club, whatever, and sure, meet people there. So perhaps from a numbers standpoint, right? If we assume that every single person you meet, 50% of them are friends, then you could probably develop a statistic. But realistically, as far as like actual meaningful, social interactions, I'm very satisfied with myself and where I am. I'm very blessed to have my friends. I think the people in my life are the most amazing thing in my life.
They support your journey.
Right, exactly. So I would say that if you're afraid of losing friends, don't be.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I agree with him. I have lost a couple friends, and I think, and not directly maybe because of, what I do, but I've had to get rid of toxic relationships within my life that, didn't support what I do or hindered my performance at the company. Because at the end of the day, anything that goes on within the business is, I don't want to say my fault because that's a negative term, but is because of a direct action, because of me, and I'm willing to do absolutely anything for the company, no matter what it takes. If that means, sacrificing something in my personal life or etc., then I don't think twice about it. Anything else to add to that?
Right. Yeah, I think that's perfect, just like that.
All right, moving on. So next topic is what it takes to be your own boss / be an entrepreneur. We wrote down just a couple of notes that we'll talk about. So self-discipline, obviously that's a gimme. That's implied. If you don't have discipline, you will not make it far in any field. I feel like even in college.
Exactly.
But I think what we do requires a whole other level of discipline because, like Andrew said, we know what we need to do when we need to do it, and we get it done, and that's pretty much it. You have anything else to add about discipline?
Yeah, but it's also a matter of doing it. It's not to say that you need to be some crazy advanced or like ridiculously well disciplined person. Like you got to be super stable to run a company. It's just that when things are challenging or when things come up that you don't want to do, you got to do them. It's just like that. And I think from a numbers standpoint, there's going to be a lot more things that you have to take care of, and a lot of issues are going to come up. Right? It's almost like solving a homework problem that never ends. There's just kind of more problems after it, but you kind of just go through it, and you find all the other things. Don't expect things to ever stop. Don't expect to ever, even if you build the most perfect business, with the most amazing team and the best, client portfolio, stuff is going to come up. There's going to be stuff that you have to deal with that's going to be negative. So for sure, I think that's very important. Absolutely.
And as an entrepreneur, I mean, if you truly like what you shouldn't want it to stop anyways.
Right.
But I guess moving on to willingness to take risks. So, I mean, I guess for me and personally, he'll be able to speak of it too, but I have to make decisions sometimes that I need to know 100% that, it's a good decision for the business. And I've had to make multiple decisions that could have plummeted us or put us in a really bad place, So I still have to be willing, despite knowing the consequences, to make these decisions on a daily basis. If you want to
right, that was actually the thing that stood up to me most about Matt when I first met him, was just his ability to kind of calculate these risks and take them. I at the time was I loved risks. I was a very athletic person, so that kind of comes with the whole sports things, right? They romanticize the risk versus reward type situations. I'm into cars, right? That's inherently dangerous, right? And all these other things. So I knew that I kind of had that background, but it also wasn't my company, right? So I had a lot less risk with any decisions. So when Matt would tell me, hey, here's a situation, I don't know what to do, or maybe here are kind of my options, what do you think? Obviously I got to take into account the fact that I can be a lot more liberal, for lack of a better term, with that than he can, right? Because he's got stuff to lose. But I was very impressed with his willingness to say yes to challenges, his willingness to say yes to risks. There were a lot of things that, I expected, okay, good family household boy isn't going to go out there and say we got a green screen when we don't have a green screen and don't know how to use it. But, he says, hey, can we figure this out? Probably. We've never shot one before, but we know the concepts. Okay, sweet. Yes, we have a green screen. Send us the couch. That's just one example. Yeah. And a lot of stuff, again, obviously we understand that some of these things also involve our clients. And when we first started up as an agency, there were situations where, taking us on was a risk for different people, right? So we had clients that started with us and we said, hey, we'll shoot, this video for you. We've never done a video like that for you. So we understand that by hiring us to do something we've never done, even though we technically on paper can produce it, you're taking a risk. So we're going to give you the appropriate rates. We're going to give you the appropriate attention, here's your reward. And we have clients actually now through just reputation with us that are able to, that we, from a monetary standpoint, favor in the sense that they were there for us when nobody else was and when they didn't have to, right? They were there for us when they said, can you do this? And we said, we don't know. And they said, okay, we want you to try. And since that worked out, since they took that risk, now here's their reward. They're able to get better rates on some things. They're able to, work with us more closely on some stuff. Exactly. Yeah. So they're seeing those results. And for sure, risk is a very important aspect here.
The next thing is that we have written down is demanding respect. So obviously we're pretty young. So making sure that we receive the same amount of respect from our team members, because they are a lot older than us, is something that takes, that's got to be a character trait that you possess, or you will get crushed. And even from a managerial standpoint, Andrew, I know he's definitely more strict than me, which is why I have him in the position that he is, because I'm not like that. I'm usually the opposite. I'm more of a nice guy, more lenient. And I've had discussions with clients before about this, where other family members and family businesses with them, they can compare them, one is more friendly, one's more strict, and this is how it worked out, so that's why I have Andrew there to complement that trait, and I think he does it very well, because it's not even like someone has to do it. It's more of just that's who he is. So,
it's funny you actually say that, because it just depends on our interactions with each other and with everybody else, because I never have to be overtly strict with anybody on the team, and we've been incredibly lucky. And I guess that a lot of the stuff that you say is based off of being a fledgling company. Again, coming back to the title of being, 19 and 20 when we were doing these things, any of the kind of dirty work, for lack of a better term, did kind of fall onto my shoulders. But even now, I think you and I do a very good job of maintaining the team. I can't remember the last time I criticized anybody, even in a constructive way, like genuine constructive criticism. I can't remember the last time I did that for anybody on the team.
No, I'm not saying
Realistically, it's offering ideas,
Right.
right? Offering, hey, here's your solution. Here's probably another solution. Consider it,
Right,
working together with a team. But it's very interesting you kind of bring that up, because I never even really realized that. And you're right to say it, but that is kind of, my personality trait versus yours. Exactly.
Well, either way, you're more willing to be strict.
Oh,
even
for
if you're
sure.
not, but I guess moving on to the next thing is being a personal leader. So what we mean by that is, obviously we are someone's boss, but we also have to be there for them as a person. Everyone here wants to be treated like a human being. So just because someone's underperforming, that doesn't mean, oh, look at their numbers, they're out the door. Maybe something's going on within their personal life that they may want to talk to you about, or maybe there's something we can assist with or connect them with some people that can help them. So being a personable or friendly person is something you definitely have to possess, and that's something, I did right off the bat, and he did too, but we've both improved on it
Right.
In the past couple of years. Anything to add to that? Or
Yeah, exactly. Coming back to what I previously mentioned, we're very close knit. It's a little bit cliche to say that, we're like a family. Yeah, of course. Everybody's going to say that about, they're the closest people, whether it's their company or their friends or whatever. But of course, we're like a family. But it really is that kind of, personal understanding. And the biggest thing is you got to understand that the people that work for you, the people on your team, they're doing their best. They're always putting their best foot forward, and it may be worse than it was last week for whatever reason, but they're still, giving their all again. And if somebody is blatantly, sabotaging projects, then obviously, that's not a person that you want on your team. But at this point, we don't have anything like that, so always kind of just thinking about any situations, anything that goes wrong, this person did their best. How can I help this person versus being upset? It's never going to help, right? Being upset at somebody, and there are situations, right? They come up. There are definitely situations. Even there are situations where I've done something where Matt's been upset. I'm certain of it. But at no point has Matt ever come up to me and said, what the heck is going on? This is incorrect. That's incorrect. Are you even trying? Like, what are you doing? It's always, if something comes up and something has to be addressed, you address the team and you say, hey, this is kind of what happened. This is what we were hoping for. What are the steps that we can take? What are your ideas? What are my ideas? Let's compare the two.
Yeah, I agree. I guess moving on to what's next? Oh, this is the big one. Separating personal life from business. For me, this is sometimes easy, sometimes not. You go first. I'm gonna get my thoughts together on this.
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to think too. A lot of Matt's friends are a lot more involved with the company than my friends are, mostly for the fact that at the end of the day, it's Matt's company. He's got all of that weight on his shoulders. His friends and family is going to be a lot more involved than, for example, my own. I don't know have my parents even been to the office. This is an interesting question.
So.
I don't think they have, and it's not to say that they're not massively supportive. They are, and I love and appreciate them. It's just a matter of they don't realistically need to see it. They've seen pictures of it. Maybe even they have been to it at some point, but they're not as involved as with you. So for me, they are separate. And they're fused together by the fact that most people know. Most people most of my friends know, what I do. And my friends are also very proud of me, so I'm very lucky. So I never have to explain to anybody. If I meet somebody new, I absolutely never even have to mention the company. My friends will say, "Oh my God, did you know he works for Everyday Expo? He does all this cool stuff. They do marketing. They're this great team." My friends are always very supportive of me in that sense. But for me, it is separate. You can't let the two affect each other. So you can't let the stuff that happens within the business world affect your family life and affect your friends, because at the end of the day, they love you and they support you. Even if it might not seem that way at times, they do want what's best. They just have different ideas, and vice versa. You can't let the stuff that happens at home influence any of your
Right.
any of the stuff that happens at work. And it takes a lot of strength, especially for me. I'm somebody who it was very, at least coming out of high school, was incredibly affected based my entire self-image off of what other people said about me. So for me, if I'm coming into work and on the way to work, somebody says that they didn't like something about me or something wasn't right, something at home happened, that's going to mess up my whole day. And it's going to take a lot of effort for me to pull myself together and to deflect that. So it's definitely a skill set that you develop over time with the whole business thing. I'll let you take care of what you want to say about it.
Yeah, I think it's a skill that takes time to develop, and like I said, for me, I don't expect the output that I have to do. I don't expect my team to come in and do that, but separating my personal life from the business life has come into play so many times. And Joe will know this too. When my grandfather passed away last summer, I was at the office 4 hours later, moreover, because I knew he would want me to be there and he'd want me to be working. He wouldn't want me to stop. But it's things like that take a lot and a while to develop, that type of skill set. And even just on a daily basis, everyone has stuff going on in their lives. I have to come in every single day, which is fine with me. No matter what is going on, I have to come in with a smile on my face, ready to support whatever the team needs, deal with any clients, whatever may be going on, which is fine with me. That's just part of the job description. But it's definitely a skill set, because I'm sure there's been so many times, like dozens of times, that I've been so upset over something, whatever's been going on, but I come into work and they wouldn't even know it.
Right, exactly. I was just about to say too, I can't tell. I genuinely, like, as close as we are and as much as we see each other and work together, again, you'll tell me most of the time if something's up or if something's not right, whatever. On a personal, level, you'll tell me. But if you took Matt and threw him in a bunch of different situations every morning and then had him come into the office 10 minutes later, within 2, 3, 4 hours of being there, unless he said something, I have no idea. I genuinely would not be able to know. And I couldn't imagine what it would be like if you came in a wreck and the rest of the team was to try and pick you up. That would be insane.
Yeah.
And the other thing is your clients too. You're going to be there for your clients. I know that for a fact with you, that there are times when your clients will call you and you can tell that stuff's not right with them, and they're coming to you for support. And that's completely outside the scopes of marketing and completely outside the scopes of any sort of services, whatever. That's absolutely not something that we offer. We're not therapy or anything like that, but it's just the fact of you build these relationships with people, that stability is definitely going to be appreciated, and knowing how to separate those two things and knowing how to deal with them on different levels, even within a client. I mean, come on, that's business and personal at the same time. There, even within one conversation, being able to separate these two things out and deal with them accordingly is definitely a skill.
Yeah, really good story time to go along with what we just talked about is the fact that during this podcast, and you're going to say you wouldn't have been able to tell, but I got a text from a friend who I'm close with, their aunt, and they were just in an accident, but you wouldn't be able to tell that something went on in my personal. You know what I'm saying?
No,
they're fine. But that just happened during the podcast.
Right. Well, there you go. There's an example of stuff that.
And that just goes to show you separating, personal life from business life. I guess moving on to having to earn our place like everyone else, right? So we may be the bosses or however you want to go about saying it, but we have to earn our place like everyone else does on a daily basis. If we come in here sipping martinis or whatever the heck is going on over here, then we're not going to get anywhere. So we still have to earn our place. And the last thing we'll talk about when it comes to what it takes to be your own boss or be an entrepreneur is realizing when you're wrong and dealing with the loss of control. I know that's a big one for you, so I'll let you talk about the control part.
Right. So I grew up, again, for one thing, from a technical side, right? So technical stuff is ones and zeros. It's right or wrong. You can't write a program that kind of works. It either works, it fulfills what it's supposed to do, or it doesn't. Everything like that. Even playing video games. If I install a mod on Minecraft, either the mod is installed and it functions or it doesn't. So for me, I was always in control of everything that I wanted to be in control of, and it was always kind of a yes-no binary type of situation. And coming into the business world and first interacting with Matt, and we would fight all the time because I had a specific idea. And from there, that I believe that idea is right and that no other ideas, not that they have the right to exist, they have the right to exist, but they're not right. They're not as good, And, being able to really understand that, well, for one thing, a lot of the times I'm wrong. I could be completely convinced. I could write an entire essay on why the following decision has to be made and why a different decision is not as good. And statistically, I might even be right. On paper, I might even be right. but there's more to it than that. There's so many other variables that are completely incalculable. So it was a big thing for me, and originally, fighting with Matt and stuff like that. For example, the office. I mean, even to this day, if I wanted to rationalize getting an office at the time when we did, all of the cons would be the overhead and the costs and the prices and the situations and having to drive there and back. The fact that the team doesn't meet up too much to begin with, let alone needed its own office, etc. All these cons, you could write them out. The only pro realistically is, well, now we have an office, we got a place to bring clients, and we've got a place for the team to come together, right? Doesn't make any sense, but 110% the office was the right decision. It's not even remotely close. On paper it might not make any sense, but in reality it's exactly that way. So definitely coming to terms with the fact that there are so many other variables that I can't control. And the other thing is that I don't have to be responsible for everything. The loss of control aspect comes down to, if I'm shooting a film or if I'm shooting a video, say I go down to Circle BMW and I'm doing a car spot, I'm manning the camera, I'm doing the microphones, I'm doing everything. I know exactly what I'm doing. I can control myself, and I'm responsible for my actions. If I send somebody from my team down there and I don't come with them, I'm relying on them to do the entire video. But at the end of the day, if Circle BMW calls and has a problem, I'm going to be dealing with them. Matt is going to be dealing with them. All of that is going to reflect on us. So there's a certain level of trust that unless you develop that from a young age, through school, through your family, through extracurricular activities, team sports and all that jazz, you're not going to be used to that. You're definitely not going to be used to letting go of things. And the other thing is, you're not going to be used to just giving it to somebody who's way better than you at that. To this day, or at least at this point in time, I know that if I've got a video to shoot, there are guys on my team who are way better than me. There's absolutely no question about it. And I would be better off every single time giving them the camera and giving them the equipment and having them take care of it than do it myself. And the same thing kind of goes for you too, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I've had to learn to offload tasks. That's been a big thing, is letting the control go. And it's not even like I'm a controlling person, but I just like to do it because I know it's getting done right if I'm doing it, and I don't want to rely on anyone else. But it came to a point, and it's come to a point for a good percentage of what I do, that I've had to offload that to other people and rely on other people, which is something I needed assistance to come to terms with. Andrew and Cortez would help me out with that all the time, and that would be usually the main discussion during our management meetings.
Right, exactly. I was just going to say that our meetings would be exactly that, the offloading of tasks down the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. All right, I guess moving on to the third and final topic of episode 2 is our position breakdown. So we'll just be giving a little bit of insight into our daily lives. So I guess I'll start. So obviously I take care of all general business duties. So I still deal with like the accounting, like payroll, taxes, all that stuff. Technically I'm the company account manager, and what I mean by that, and Andrew's too, but we kind of divvy it up. I'll deal with the client engagement and interaction and the client relationship essentially. So everything that goes on, other than, and that has to deal with whatever the project managers aren't dealing with, until we can get someone in here that'll be their main job. But for now, me and Andrew are taking care of that. Team communication and internal management. So every day I'm pretty much go, up and down Monday.com, which is our team management software system. And I'll see what tasks and what's being completed. So I'll text the person, say, hey, like, how's this going? Do you need anything from me? Or I'll text someone their to-do list. And I know I don't have to do it, because that's why I'm paying $150 a month for this damn software in the first place. But, that's just me, and that's what I like to do. The next thing, so I stick my hands within the social media department. So I take care of some of the accounts that we run and stuff like that. So technically I am completing some of the services that we offer. All incoming inquiries that have nothing to do with the sales department, like calls to the office or like emails, I'm still taking care of that. I still run, we divvy it up, but I do run a lot of errands on a daily basis, because I don't really want to pay anyone else to do it. If I need to go do this or do that, well, I'm a person. I have a car with 4 wheels. I can go do it myself. There's no reason to offload it. And there's the tedious stuff, like I clean the office every single day. Everyone who hangs out with me at night, friend-wise, knows there has to be a 15-minute stop at the office so I can wipe down the tables and get the place ready for whatever the next day may bring. And yeah, basically, if anything is going on within the company, I'm responsible for it. So I have to make sure I'm there to, take care of it. So I take on many different hats within the, I guess, position breakdown.
Right. Yeah,
You wanna move on
exactly.
to yours?
So for myself, I take care of a lot of the technical side of stuff. I make sure that all the equipment is running correctly. So here's an example. Currently, we have a problem with our battery grips for our cameras. We didn't want to buy the Sony battery grips because one battery grip and like two Sony batteries costs more than all of the accessories that we have for these Sony cameras at the time. And we don't need a battery grip to be able to run it. So again, cutting some costs, we're able to get the stuff that we need to get without spending a huge amount of money. But now we've got an issue. Both of them are bugging out, and now I've got to solve it. So I can take it apart, literally take it apart. I know what the problem is. I know where the connectors are, and decide maybe I want to cut the connectors from the battery grip altogether. It's interfering with some of the settings on the camera. I can delete that function from the grip altogether, because the problem is that we want the battery space. We don't want to pay for all of we don't realistically tilt the camera to the side, and even if I did, I could reach the other shutter, and the rest of my team could too. But that's just an example, right? So dealing with the equipment. The other side is making sure that everything's updated if a new camera comes out. So for example, Canon just released the R5 and the R6 series, and I've been a Sony fan for the last 5 years, and I don't know what to think anymore. They're absolutely stunning cameras. I haven't actually had this conversation with Matt yet, because he doesn't want to know how much they cost. Absolutely incredible, stunning cameras. So now I got to make the decision. When it's time for us to upgrade, are we going to switch our entire Sony lineup and our entire Sony skill set to these new cameras? That's just one example. Behind me here, you can't see it if you're listening to it, but you'll be able to see the camera if you're viewing this on YouTube or wherever else the video is posted to. That's a Sony FS5. At some point that thing's going to become pretty obsolete. Already it's not the newest camera on the market. It's phenomenal for the value, but there's stuff coming out all the time. I know that my team loves Blackmagic stuff, right? And there's going to be more of this talked about in the upcoming episodes, but now I got to make a decision. I'm going to take everybody's opinions, everybody from the team, discuss the cameras, discuss our options, and say, okay, if this is our budget, if this is kind of the stuff that we're working with, what can we do to get everybody to where they want to be? I know that a lot of people would love to shoot on some Blackmagic stuff. So that's just some technical side, some of the equipment. The other stuff is constantly having to learn how to add value to our work. All the time I'm learning something new. So for example, literally today when we filmed this, I did a video for the Barter Saves Network, that we were very happy with. It was a reshoot, actually, because there were some mistakes that were made, and, some of the stuff that happened with the first one was imperfect. That's very rare for us, actually, to reshoot a video. I can't really think of more than...
When have we ever reshot?
More than the one time we had to reshoot it. Super simple video. It's about a minute long. It wasn't a problem to redo it at all. It was a decision that they wanted to make, hey, let's reshoot it. Sweet. So today I'm sitting there learning how to adjust my audio levels for a person speaking if I want to cut them before they make a mistake, but I don't want to lose a sentence, right? So every sentence, comes to a certain stop, how do I implement that electronically into a video without having just a hard cut in the middle of a sentence that doesn't go anywhere, Again, that's something that I learned today, and there's always something new every single day. And from there, everything that I'm learning, everything that I'm understanding, do I need to portray that to the team? Does the team know about this stuff? And what else can I learn from them, right? Because I'm not inherently a filmmaker. We have guys with film degrees. So a lot of the time I'll say, okay, I want to learn on how we can better color our footage, for example. I've got guys who know way more about that than me, who have way more experience about that than me. So I'm going to read every article that I could possibly find on whatever topic it is. I'm going to reach out to the team. We're going to compile these opinions. And then in my head, I have to say, okay, this is what we've come to terms with. How do I now spread this information? Do I need to spread this information? A lot of the times, our team's very close. They're going to be all on the same page. I don't have to teach any of them anything. I don't have to say, okay, this person said this. What do you guys think? We all have very similar ideas. And then the stuff that's different stylistically, those are different styles. You don't have to, change people's styles. Everybody gets to keep, doing what they love doing the way that they love doing it here. But definitely another, aspect of integrating everything together, integrating everybody together. Let's see. Obviously software is a big one. If I'm running the whole computer side of things, I need to keep the rig updated. I need to keep all the Adobe stuff updated. I need to take care of all the stuff. If there's new software that's coming out, that needs to be updated. Recently, I reinstalled everything on the rig, completely redid the Windows setup, redid all the drivers, all the everything, realized that I had a problem in the BIOS, which is the deep, motherboard side of computers that wasn't running the computer the way it should be running. Fixed a lot of problems that we were having. even with a very expensive, very quality rig, genuinely made it much better. Again, if we don't stay on top of these things, if you don't constantly maintain your gear, your team, your equipment, everything's going to fall apart. And then lastly, I would say is that definitely if something goes wrong, I'm in charge of, from a technical side, fixing it. So if somebody's website goes down, it's going to go to me first. And then from there, I'm going to say, okay, maybe there's somebody on my team who's very familiar with this. I, a few months ago, learned how to FTP into a server. Didn't know how to do that, but there's definitely people on my web dev team that know how to do that. And now I know that I can always, reach out to a specific person and get that done. But I also have that information for myself, so I can take care of it when it goes wrong. Same thing with different accounts. Sometimes there will be a client who's not seeing the results that they're hoping to see, and the results that we're hoping to see from our content. Let's take the whole thing. Let's decrypt the entire service. Let's figure out what's going wrong. Why is this digital advertising campaign not performing? Why is this web page not getting as much clicks? What's wrong with the blog? What's wrong with, whatever else is going on? So definitely a very big part of that is just not micromanaging, but quality controlling different things and being able to get in there and fix them. And the joke that I was going to make is that before, it doesn't really happen so much now because I've kind of started to believe in myself. But if something needed to be done, Matt would always tell me and say, hey, the following things needs to be done on the following website. And then he would just ignore everything I said. And all I would say is, that's impossible. That's definitely not going to happen. I've never done anything like this. This is, multi-$1,000 thing that you want me to do. I don't have the skills. I don't have the processes. Nobody's done this before. And Matt would just leave. He knows that I'm upset. He knows that I'm unhappy with the situation. Obviously, if there's an actual concern or an actual question, he'll listen to it. But he's going to ignore all of me ranting and rambling about how this isn't going to work. And, by the end of the day or by the end of whatever the deadline is, we'll find a way to make it happen. I'll find the resources necessary. I'll reach out to my team. We'll bring everything together and we'll solve the task that seems impossible at the time.
Sometimes it's even little stuff. 5 minutes later, he'll be like, oh, that's done.
Right.
Or something like that. So I just learned to, do that. Oh, boy. But, I don't know. I think that's good to close off that topic. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
So I guess moving on, I wrote down here a couple of funny facts about being, business owners or managers at such a young age. So the number one thing is none of your team members will know what to call you, whether that's sir, boss,
right,
or something like that. I've had multiple people. Neither of you did that, which is fine. That's not what I want. But I mean, a good majority of everyone on the team other than you guys used to call me sir or boss. I'm like, it's Matt.
Right,
so
exactly.
That was just something funny to mention. And the next thing is that your clients may or may not call you kiddo.
Right, that's always funny.
Well, the response, I never say this, but the response in my head is usually, well, this kiddo just made you $45,000 on your Black Friday sales, so if it's kiddo, that's fine.
Right, exactly.
And the last thing I wrote down was, by the age of 25, I'm hoping to make the bulk of my financial mistakes, whereas most people it may be 35 to 40, or some people are even late bloomers than that, So I'm hoping I make all my financial mistakes by then. So yeah, just a couple funny things I wrote down that just popped in my head.
Right.
I just moving on quickly to the story / lesson of the week. Do you want to start out or do you want me?
Yeah, so mine is definitely never stop because something seems too difficult. Between Matt locking me in a room and having me solve a problem that I'm screaming about how it's impossible, or, Matt taking on risks and, taking on projects that maybe we don't know if, we're going to do them the way that we want to do them, but we have a vision, we have an idea, we believe we have the skill set, go for it. And same thing, in everybody else's lives. Maybe we've just been incredibly lucky, but a lot of the time, I've noticed that confidence definitely is key. Taking on a project that, as long as, you're not lying about your capabilities, as long as you really can do it, even if you're not 100% confident in it, definitely do it. A lot of this stuff, even when I first learned, color grading, that seemed absolutely impossible to me. Now, everything that I ever produce is color graded, and that takes not too long at all. I'm used to my cameras. I know how I shoot. I know the look that I want to achieve. Not too difficult. Same thing with originally when I called GoDaddy on the phone because we were having a problem with our website, and the guy on the other line said, oh, have you ever FTP'd into a database before? And in my mind, I was like, I have no idea what you just said. And I was like, sure, definitely. Give me the link. Give me the key and the pass that it takes to FTP into a server. Definitely take on the challenges. You're definitely gonna fail at some of them, but no, it's better to fail at something
Of course.
and learn from it than to just close yourself off altogether.
I mean, failure leads to success at the end of the day. So.
Exactly.
I guess moving on to my, lesson of the week. I wrote down, don't let a few bad seconds or minutes ruin your day. I run into this sometimes where I have a, negative interaction with a client or just something's not going well. And I have to learn that that's only 5 minutes of my 24-hour day. So if I let it affect me for the rest of the day, then the rest of the day is going to be crap, and that may lead into the next day. So you just have to, let go on some things. And like I said, don't let a few bad seconds ruin the rest of your day. You can overcome whatever hardship that is, and bounce back from it stronger, even if it's smaller things. Doesn't have to be something huge, and kind of take it from there.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so that's pretty much it for the topics and the content for this episode. We do want it to be known that this is not going to be the end of discussion in terms of entrepreneurship. Of course, it's part of every episode.
Right.
Everything we discuss is somehow tied to entrepreneurship, but we will be doing a couple more segments directly on this topic, kind of diving deeper. This is more of just like the basics and, just getting to know us and our journeys, but we'll be diving into that more. Just giving a little sneak peek into next week's episode. It is titled Let's Talk Photo and Video, where we're going to have a couple team members from EDE and EDS come on the podcast with us. Just talk a little bit about the creative side of things. Talk about our services, how we do them, why we do them, all that good stuff. And as you can see already, Andrew's one of our guys that is, that loves to do photo and video stuff.
Like right, I'm very excited. Definitely excited.
And content creation in terms of photo and video is one of our mainstream services. So yeah, next week, let's talk photo and video, and we'll be having some of our guys on, so be able to start meeting some of our, team members that we have. We'll start showing some of the talent we have off. But like I said, we don't want to show off all our cards yet. But lastly, make sure, you guys can email us at info@everydaypodcast.biz, that's B-I-Z at the end, or visit us at the website at everydaypodcast.biz, that's B-I-Z, or follow us on our social media accounts, which, like we stated before, are now fully up and running. Our Facebook's everydaypodcast.fb, or everydaypodcast.fb, and our Instagram is everydaypodcast.ig. Andrew, I don't know if you have anything to add, but this is a pretty great episode. Glad we were able to speak our minds. We hope you guys learned something, even if it's something small, or take something and apply it to your daily lives. And like I said, if we help one person in some way, shape, or form, then we're happy with how this came out.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back for episode 3 next week. And if you didn't watch episode 1 yet, be sure to go back. We'll see you soon.